What is going on, wrestling fans? It's IC. Welcome to 10 Count Media. He loves that song. And with Sean Mooney. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. And I know when I hear that music, we're going to get some great information about the events that have taken place. Some very recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Raise those eyebrows. Maybe one
41.
or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were at the World during WrestleMania 41's week, not weekend anymore. It's an entire week.
Oh my goodness,
I lived there and it was great. And you were at WrestleCon also as well. But today we're talking about WrestleMania 9, the event, the panel you were involved with, and of course the documentary that you were also featured in, because this WrestleMania 9, according to historians, is the event they're going to say that this was the beginning of the pop, the pageantry, the big entrances, the rehearsals for entrances as well. But while you were in the WWF before this event, were there ever rehearsals for entrances or big events like this?
Well, I think you'd call them more walkthroughs than rehearsals, because there really wasn't the need for it. You didn't have people coming in being carried on these, I don't know, lays or what do they call them? The lounges, basically.
Yeah, he was lounging out, Macho Man. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't really have stuff like that. They didn't have to deal with buzzards and elephants and llamas. And so, no, it was definitely a spectacle, as it is called, the WrestleMania 9 becoming a spectacle, the documentary just out on Peacock.
Yeah, and it's a great documentary, about 2 hours long too, because when you at first I'm thinking, is this going to just be like 45 minutes of backstage video and that's about it? No, they went into depth. They talked to CEOs, executives, yourself, Hogan, Bret, Lex. Like there was a slew of people. And now tell me, how did you get involved with the documentary? When were those interviews even filmed?
No, a while. Well, you know, mine. I don't. It was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago.
Wow. Okay.
When they came out, but it really is amazing, and there's a lot of layers to this documentary which make it so good, because you know, after a while when you're putting these documentaries out, there's only so many ways to tell a story. But when you've got all of this that's involved, I mean, you got to think about it. First of all, it was a time when you've got the old guard, people like Hulk Hogan and Bret the Hitman Hart, with these new rising stars, somebody by the name of Undertaker. You know, Shawn Michaels is on the rise. And so there's all this going on behind the scenes of people thinking, okay, are the superstars of yesterday going to be gone? And then we're going to see this new generation come forward and take the WWE to new heights. And then you've also have this the discovery. Well, I shouldn't say it was a discovery, but recently for this documentary, when they were putting it all together, they shot behind the scenes footage. Now, Steve, you have to remember, this was 1993, a long time ago, and more than 30 years ago. And it was still very much a kayfabe business. Everybody knows what I'm talking about there. You just didn't pull the curtain back. Well, they had cameras behind the scenes for this whole thing. They shot, there was some 30 tapes, 15 hours of footage that the crews shot there. And it was basically them just walking around, capturing whatever they saw was happening. And it's amazing in this documentary to see the boys, the superstars of the day, going, what are you doing? What's the camera? What are you doing? There's shots of Undertaker where he's kind of in the background, but they're focusing the camera on him, and he's looking at him like he wants to rip their heads off, because he's thinking, okay, nobody told me about this, but they didn't want to. They wanted to capture these guys in that, light. They wanted to see what it was really like back there. I don't know if they had a plan of what the heck they were going to do with it, because I think at some point they said, we can't put this out now. And
how would you?
Yeah, how would they do it? Because without revealing all of this, that these guys are out of character. So it sat on the shelves for years. They did take little snippets of it. I talked to some of the George Germanakos, who's also featured in this documentary, kind of becomes the star of it. And I've known George since I was with the WWE back then, and he is the official archivist. He's got a much bigger title, but he said he told me that they have taken little snippets, but they didn't really know. Okay, what do we do with it now? And then after a while, it was that kind of that period of okay, now it's old, so it wouldn't really make any sense. But then when you do this period documentary, it made perfect sense. They're like, we can show this now because we see now, of course, pretty much the business has certainly been completely revealed. They're supposed to be doing a show now that's going to basically completely take the curtain back and tell you how they plan storylines and that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
It is fascinating to see this footage, and it's really cool to see people back then in their prime, Bret Hart and them just being who they are in front of these cameras, because they were comfortable in a sense that they knew the guys behind the lens. These were crew members. It wasn't like a news team somehow got back there or something like that, or strangers from Los Angeles film crew or something. These were people that they were used to being around, seeing at the TV tapings and that kind of thing. So they were comfortable in a sense. So you really got to see them. And once they realized what was going on, then they kind of started playing around, and there's all kinds of jokes. And you've seen Okerlund giving Fincus Maximus a hard time about his awful jokes. So that is one, to me, was one of the greatest parts of this documentary. But as I mentioned, there was a lot happening. We will get into it as well. There was some controversy. Also, there was openly, and I'll tell you, Steve, what I really did love about this documentary, it was pretty darn honest about what was happening there. And they put it out there that there was, Bret openly talks about how he was told Hulk had nothing to do with WrestleMania. And then he heard he was showing up. And then he said, I was told that it was just for him to promote a movie. Well, as we found out, there was a lot more to it than that. So there was simmering a resentment, not just with someone like Bret the Hitman Hart, but all the superstars. As I mentioned, it was kind of that time of changing the guard. And they're saying, well, in a sense, it's our turn. It's my turn to step up. And as we found out that wasn't the case, but there was also reason behind it. Basil DeVito, who was the promotions person back then, who literally would map out the seating and was in charge of ticket sales, said after about 2 weeks, they'd only sold about 2,000 seats then. So there was massive panic in a sense, because as you'll hear in the documentary with Basil, he says, we weren't used to this. We were used to putting up the WrestleMania and then boom, it's sold out. Well, that wasn't happening. So Hulkamania would run wild because guess what? They needed him.
And that's the thing too, I think people don't really bring up. First off, the reason I think the documentary comes out now, WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas. So you got WrestleMania 9 in Vegas, 41 in Vegas. Well, it makes sense to be like, oh, this is the perfect time to release this, because you could release this video anytime in the past 20 years. And I don't think it'd have the same impact because it was WrestleMania season. We're also in Vegas. So we're revisiting where we once were before. So it's kind of like, oh, it all matches together in a sense. But the old guard versus the new guard, I love that you brought that up, because I have the card for WrestleMania 9 here. And if we just flash back 2 years ago, mostly everyone on this card is not in the WWF at the time. Like, so you have Tatanka 2 years ago, not there. Shawn Michaels, yes, he was, because he was part of the Rockers. Steiner Brothers, not there. Head Shrinkers, not there. No. Dunk the Clown, nope. Crush was there, but he was part of Demolition. So he has a new, fresh coat of paint on him. Razor Ramon, nope. Bob Backlund hasn't been there since '84. Money Incorporated, yes, they were there, but separately. IRS didn't show up until 91. Lindell the Man, nope. Hogan Beefcake, obviously they've been around. No Lex Luger. Mr. Perfect was around. Undertaker shows up at the end of 1990. No Giant Gonzalez. No Yokozuna. And Bret Hart was in a tag team. Yeah. So think about that. You're talking about you only sold 2,000 tickets. I'm guessing you only sold 2,000 tickets is because when you ask someone, hey, you're going to watch WrestleMania? Who's on it? And you're like, Tatanka? And I love Tatanka. But it's like,
Crush?
well, you don't hear Warrior. You don't hear Savage. You don't hear Hogan. You don't hear the names that people still to this day bring up as being their favorite wrestlers. Like, do you think that trying this new generation situation here, was that the problem? Or was it, we don't have any marquee Hulk Hogan type stars yet? We're building Bret Hart up, but he's not there yet.
Yes, all of that. I think that it was kind of a cold slap of reality because, Vince was on this youth drive and trying to bring in these new personalities. And as you said, even listening to you, run down the card, I'm like, I'm thinking like, and it wasn't a great card and not the greatest matches either. There were a few good ones. The Steiner brothers match I thought was excellent. But overall, meh, not nothing that really stood out to you. And then, of course, they bring in the Mega Maniacs to boost sales, which it did. Once you got the Hulkster involved, and Hulk knew he had him and took full advantage, as we saw by the time the evening ended.
True. Now, as a businessman, I understand if you have poor ticket sales and Bret Hart is questioning that he's hearing, Hulk Hogan's going to come back, but Vince tells Bret, he won't be involved with you. Don't worry about it. If I'm Vince McMahon, I honestly understand all of the tall tales you have to tell these wrestlers to keep them in line, because if you piss off Bret before you even get to WrestleMania, maybe he doesn't do what you want him to do on the way there. That's there's a lot of problems here as a boss, because everyone looks at Vince as this evil man, but he's running a business. There's cameramen, there's editors, there's directors.
Yep.
Without Hogan showing up and win the title, perhaps these tickets don't sell out. Perhaps WrestleMania is a failure. And if that's a failure, does the company fail as well?
Yeah. And think about it also, Steve. We talk about the spectacle of this event. Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't so much this epiphany of saying this is going to be the future of the WWE as we move forward, and this is the way we should present these events. I think they knew there wasn't a lot of shine to these superstars that they were bringing out and trying to get people to come out and see. So they had to make it, above and beyond just this crazy spectacle, which they did. Transforming a parking lot into a Roman Coliseum was great. And that's another thing with this, with the footage, is they show them actually doing this. The behind the scenes is pretty amazing, but they really did it. And it was the first time they had an outdoor event, which added another attraction to it, kind of that feel. And they wanted it to be, it was Vegas, basically the entertainment capital of the world. And they wanted that big fight feel to it. That you have to, this is it. You have to be there to see this. So they just threw everything they could into this pot to try and get people to show up for it. In the end, it worked, and it did set a precedent. It's not something we would see every year after that at WrestleManias, but it did set the stage, pun intended there, that for future events and what we would see in the WWE from that point on. Yeah.
And I think one thing is for people to remember is this documentary, I think, has put something in people's brains where they think WrestleMania IX was this amazing event and it's stupendous, because the documentary shows you the hard work that went into it. You never really see that. You always see the final result. And if the final result ends, you're like, was that a good movie or a bad movie? Was that a good event or a bad event? You're not watching how the movie's made until after. So like, I respect everyone that put everything into WrestleMania IX, but since 1993, anytime someone has made, top 10 worst something of that, this ended up on the list because they thought the togas was silly. They thought the matches weren't quality. The finishes had really very questionable finishes throughout the card, not just Hogan and Bret and Yoko. John Gonzalez and Undertaker has chloroform involved. Are you telling me a giant man who's in a body suit with hair and he has fake muscles on, who's supposed to be a monster, also has the mindset to be like, I can't defeat him, so I might as well go to the store and buy chloroform
and knock him out?
Sorry,
Yeah.
That's like Kamala using chloroform to me. That's like that these characters aren't supposed to have thoughts like that. They're monsters. So
Yeah.
I can see why now people are looking at Nine going, oh wow, it did all these great things. But honestly, like it didn't do anything until many years later when they started doing entrances that had rehearsals, huge moments that had like Shawn Michaels coming down the zip line at WrestleMania 12. These things were far in between. This event did not just create this movement of theatrics because the business does not go up from here. It goes down from here, unfortunately. And the new generation, you weren't part of the new generation. On WrestleMania 9, you're on the kickoff show live from Master Control, I believe, in the studios. And after that, you're no longer with the company, if I'm understanding correctly. So
no, that's correct.
Why was this?
I wasn't in a toga that day.
You were not in a toga.
No.
Did you want to at least attend the event, or you were already gone from the company as that kickoff show is airing?
Yeah, I was already. It wrapped up. The timing of it was just, perfect at that point. I had a lot of regret at that point, and what am I doing? But also, I'd made that decision moving forward, and I just kind of left it to see where fate would take me. But that's a whole other discussion about what I did beyond that point, and wanting to have stuck around for a few more years. But it really gave me an opportunity to watch that all unfold from a different perspective. And I remember thinking at the time, all of this, like, oh man, I saw how we were struggling with the ticket sales. And as you mentioned, the business did not get better from that point, but it was already kind of, the stage was set. And this was across the board for, I think, all of professional wrestling at the time. And the WWE was struggling particularly. All that stuff was happening with the steroids. And there was, at some point wondering even if Vince McMahon was going to be leading the company. They had come up with alternative plans if, things didn't work out eventually. So, it was a very strange time in the business, and we it was quite a while actually till we saw the things change, and of course with the Attitude Era that brought everything back. But what happened though at WrestleMania 9 though did show the company what it could do. That it was one of those events where they just said, can we make this happen? Yeah, we can get an elephant in there. Yes, we can get a buzzard to sit on a stand when the Undertaker comes out. Yes, we can transform a parking lot into a Roman Coliseum, and at that point, they're kind of like, we can create whatever we can put, imagine. And also, Vince always loved that. I mean, he's a showman, and I think it just opened the world up in a sense, and it would not be, it wasn't a faucet, as you said, but we did see, things change, and how they presented these events. As always, they were the first to do things like this, and it's unfortunate that it wasn't a better card, because maybe people would look at that event differently as well and say, well, it had all this fanfare, and man, what a great lineup of matches. But when you see things like Lex Luger taking on Mr. Perfect, where you're going, well, at least I know that's going to be a good match. And it wasn't. And as I mentioned early on in our discussion here, that it was honest. You have Lex Luger talking about, the admiration and the respect he has for Mr. Perfect, for Kurt Hennig. And knowing he's saying, this is a slam dunk for me, basically. This is going to be a great match. And he said it was a great lesson to him that you never know what's going to happen when they step into the ring. And watching all this, and me, I didn't know this at the time. Because I'm telling you, Kurt had a reputation for. I'm not, revealing anything no one's heard before, that as he'd love to have a good time and put whatever he wanted into his body and would be just wild, the night before an event. But honest to God, all the time I worked with him, I would see him backstage be going like, oh boy, man. And that guy would go out there. You would have thought that he had 12 hours of sleep. Not touched anything, because his matches were always so solid. He didn't miss anything. Now, I wasn't on the road with him every day. I didn't go a ton of the house shows. I'm just telling you, whenever I saw him in the ring, he was perfect. And to have Lex, reveal saying, we get in the ring, and he says, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? When they lock up, and Lex thinks he's ribbing him.
Right.
Because he can't believe it. He just thinks he's messing with him. And no, he didn't. He just, whatever happened in that. And you see, before he goes out there, he does an interview with Gene and stumbled through it. Gene had to kind of save it.
Mm-hmm.
And so who knows what was going on. But my point is to that what you would have thought that, well, we can count on that one.
Right. There's few matches you should count on.
Yeah, it didn't happen that way. So yeah, it was it will not be remembered as the greatest professional wrestling events for what happened in the ring, but it certainly stands out for how it changed the way wrestling events, live events, were presented, because others copied it too.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Usually it's like, I think the issues with WrestleMania IX for a lot of people is the card. But when people think of like themes, you're like, oh man, you can't touch this event because of all the effort that was put into it. You brought up, you got elephants, you got camels, you got togas everywhere. It's amazing to see that part of it. But yeah, the card, not something you want to. Usually people want to watch 3 hours of a show. They don't go, look at that, look at the togas, look at the elephant. Yeah. They're usually watching it.
Look at Bobby Heenan's. Look at Bobby Heenan's ass getting off. An
portions of it are great and fun with that. Though, yeah, it's funny. It's just so funny. Also, one thing I think people always forever have thought that it was a rib on Jim Ross, good old JR, where your first night on the job. First off, your first night on the job is WrestleMania. Yeah. Okay. So no one has heard your voice once on Superstars or Wrestling Challenge or Raw or anything. Boom. Yeah. Hello. You're going to be the play-by-play guy the whole night. Oh, you're in a toga. I don't care about the toga part. I think that's a lot of pressure to put on someone or even your audience to accept someone immediately on a show they were kind of questioning already. And now you have a new voice that people don't recognize. Have you ever spoken to JR about the pressure of being put out there with nothing to land on, no net, just, hey, WrestleMania, go for it?
Yeah. I personally did not have a conversation with him, although I did see him at WrestleMania, and we did have a nice conversation. But as far as WrestleMania IX goes, he talks about that all the time, that how kind of crazy that was his first event, and then he's got to wear these, a toga and sandals, which, of course, he makes reference to when he does the welcome. But yeah, and also, recall that, Gorilla at this point is kind of starting to be put back a little bit. He opens the show, but then you really don't hear from him. Nope. So, changing of the guard in a sense too. But Jim Ross had waited for that moment for his entire life. I don't think that he was thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this is all this, pressure. I wish I would have had a chance to do some TV tapings or something before I did this. I mean, he was not some newcomer. He
of course
was veteran, veteran of
know you.
Thousands of broadcasts. Yeah. So, but and I don't think it was a rib either, because everybody else was wearing a toga. I don't think Vince said, okay, what could I do? I'll put him in a toga, and then, all right, well, then everybody else is going to have to wear it too. So, I mean, it was great, because even the camera guys were dressed so it was, they went all out. They didn't miss anything.
No. And of course, one of the biggest portions of that documentary and your panel talked about Hulk Hogan and his black eye showing up to the event. Now I have a clip exclusively from the WWE World panel that you hosted with Rick Steiner and Jimmy Hart and others. And we're going to play a clip right now. And you asked Jimmy about this black guy. He gives you his story. Then we're going to talk about what everyone else thinks. So let's play that clip.
All right, Jimmy. What's the real story?
All right, the first story that went out, it was like Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan got into a big fight before WrestleMania. I said, what? That was the rumor going around. So what really happened is what Brutus and what the Hulkster said. They were, the day before the show, they were out with Ellis Edwards, you know, on a jet ski, having fun. The day before WrestleMania, or 2 days before. So they go out, they're out, the waves are really bad. That way it had been raining earlier that day. So the jet ski took a big dip into one of the rings. And of course, one of the handlebar deals hit the Hulkster in the eye, ripped it wide open. I mean, we had to call a doctor that night and try to get it patched up as much as we could. That's the real story of what happened. But then we got to the arena, you know, right here in Las Vegas. And of course, we had the doctors. You had to go to the doctor's in and get an okay if you could get in the ring or not. So Vince tells Hulk, he goes, man, you can't wrestle like that. There's no way. They're not going to approve it. He goes, yeah. We had a commission back then, too. Yeah. So they go to the convention. They go, oh, let me see this. Oh, my God. He goes, there's no way you can wrestle. And Hulk said, brother, I'm getting ready to do a movie. He said, this is all makeup. They went, what? Man, what a great job this is. It looks real, which it really was real. So they checked it out. Hulk told him he was doing a big movie project coming out. The guys believed it. Guess what? We got the okay to have the match.
Okay, and you couldn't keep the Hulkster out of the ring, and there's no question about it. That was one nasty injury, but there were different opinions. Your brother, Scott, had an idea. I want to get your thoughts, Rick, on what you thought happened.
I don't think a lot of us really knew what was going on. Didn't know at the time what Hulk was up to. And of course, you know, Jimmy mentioned, you hear all the stories. So it's hard to, you know, in this business, what's real and what's not real. And so we I just kind of waited to see what happened. And when he walked through in the back, like, holy cow, something happened bad. So, you know, I was just waiting to see what was going to go on, what would happen. And he ended up going to the ring.
Well. well. Because even Undertaker on the documentary said he should have ducked instead of weaved, I believe is what he said. So, yeah, a lot to unpack there. Jimmy Hart is a loyalist to Hulk Hogan. We've known this forever. Bruce Beefcake in the documentary also repeats that same story about the jet ski. Hogan obviously brings it up too. Each one kind of has like a different little details of the same story, but Scott Steiner, obviously Macho Man, everyone believed that Macho Man is the one who punched him in the face. Okay, so use your detective hat here, Mr. Mooney. What do you think really happened here?
I enjoyed watching. I was kind of lasering in on just watching Rick's face while Jimmy was going on, and he's kind of doing that with and his beard. Yeah, well, that and here we are, more than 30 years later, still debating what happened to the Hulkster's eye. There is a great video of the behind the scenes when the Megamaniacs show up, and Jimmy's with them, and Hulk's wearing the wraparound sunglasses, and then you get a nice view of that shiner, and it wasn't just a black eye. I mean, his whole eye was bloody red, and so obviously they should have gotten their stories maybe a little straighter, because there were, as you mentioned, the little things are off, because I think that way Hulk tells it, the ski caught him, and he
700 pounds,
and now it was a handlebar. So regardless, but at the same time, the Scott Steiner says in the documentary that Macho Man told him that it was him, that he punched him, which adds to the lore of this, because we all know there was not, say, great friendly relations between those two for a lot of reasons. So it was possible. But at the same time, who knows? But I also wonder who this doctor was.
That believed.
I don't think I want him working on me if I tell him no. This is all makeup. I mean, the stuff with my eye all bloody and everything. Isn't it great what we can do with this? And this guy's like, Oh, okay. Well, let me sign.
Do, here you go. When I heard that too, I was like,
yeah. And Steve, and that's another good point here is that, you know, they one of the reasons that they finally, a lot was involved too, but one of the main reasons that they finally, pulled the curtain back from professional wrestling was that they did have to go with athletic commissions. I remember being at Madison Square Garden, which was a union place, and they went, they had the boxing commission was the same people, and they would have to come over and clear all the guys to go in and wrestle because they had to adhere to the same rules, and it was just ridiculous. So it's funny that that's what they had to do there too, and in Vegas. So I think that's when they finally said, come on, all right, sports entertainment, and everybody's like, no, oh my God, you can't do it, you'll ruin everything. It's like, no, didn't really ruin anything.
Nope. Kind of
there
saved
may
the
have
money.
been some
Actually,
seriously who I would wonder about their mental stability, who were destroyed by that, but no. But that is an interesting part of wrestling history of why did they decide to say it's sports entertainment and kind of pull the curtain back? Well, that was one of the big reasons, because they were tired of all this crap that every time they went somewhere, these guys would come in, and I don't know what it cost or but it was just a major inconvenience for all the boys, and to have to deal with this crap every time they went somewhere to those cities. So that was part of it. But getting back to the controversy
who did it
surrounding this, yeah.
Who's guilty, Jet Ski or Macho Man?
As I said, it's been more than 30 years. We still don't know. And as I said on the panel, we never will.
This is true.
Macho Man is not here to confirm it or deny, or deny or whatever. But I think it's kind of an awesome part of this. There was an element to it that, and it's funny because then you had the Megamaniacs. You have Brutus, who's got the titanium face, and Hulk with the bad eye, and Ted DiBiase talks about we're professionals and we knew how to do this, and we weren't going to go after the Hulkster's eye or what they did, and they made it work for as good as it could be.
That wasn't a good tag match, if we're going to be honest here. Though the part about the Macho Man thing is really interesting, because on commentary, Macho Man the entire time anytime Hogan's on screen, he is praising him. He is not ever once giving a hint that, I punched this guy in the face yesterday, and this is why his eye looks like this. Not once. Because if I'm a detective, if I'm putting my CSI hat on here, my Law and Order hat, the stories having different information inside the same story, that to me is a red flag of you guys aren't telling the truth. But the other half is Macho Man he's hiding if he hates Hogan on commentary very well. And that's the problem, is I wasn't in the room. And why would Savage just walk up to Hogan? And where was this? Did this happen in the locker room? No one saw it. And why would Savage even tell Rick Steiner? Why would this rumor even get out this happened? That's the thing that really kind of makes me go, I don't know who's telling who, what's the truth, because why would Savage just tell someone, hey, by the way, that's me, I punched him? But did you? But why did you? Because you guys don't like each other? There's a lot of layers to this. So a jet ski hitting you in the face, plausible. I could believe it. Not the whole thing. Hogan's story is I hit this button and it dropped down, and then I flew over it, and then I bopped up, and then it hit me in the face. In my head, if you're on a jet ski and you fall off this way, if jet ski's going 70 miles an hour, you already ducked down and it went past you. But yet, if you pop up, Jimmy says and Bruce Beefcake say that the handle hit him in the face. I believe that part. But the Savage thing, that rumor's been around since this event. It has never gone away, and it never will go away.
Exactly. The other part of this too is that if I'm Vince, I'm pissed. I don't care what happened. What are you doing? After all of this, and then the build up, and you've got Hulkamania running wild, and then you show up like that, and he's thinking, and he tells him, you can't wrestle, because Vince is thinking they're never going to approve you to go out there. I've got to get past these commissioners, these doctors that they have. and somehow they pulled that off. Whether it was as Hulk describes, or who knows, but Hulk took care of it, and he was in that ring, and he was there at the end of the event too.
I like his backstage video, and they're walking down the tunnel to the entrance on the documentary. He's like, "Hiya! Hiya! Kick some ass!" I'm like, what is he yelling? I was like, I've never seen this Hulk Hogan before. I've only seen him tell me to take my vitamins and say my prayers. Yeah, the ending of this WrestleMania, I think it's like watching a movie. No matter what happens in the movie, you remember the ending. Clear as day, remember the ending. Bret Hart is this new generation superstar. He's been carrying the company. He beat Ric Flair back in October of '92 for the title. So we are putting all of our chips on this guy. Las Vegas joke. And yet here we are, WrestleMania. It's going to be his first main event. Who has main evented the past 8 WrestleManias? Hulk Hogan. So whoever main events WrestleMania in the eyes of a fan is saying, this is the guy. He is the man. I have to get behind him because it's good guys. That's how it works. And yet Bret loses to Yokozuna by, it's cheating. There's like salt in the eyes. And when Hogan comes down and Bret as a baby face is on television, is telling Hogan, no, go in there. Go in there. Because Mr. Fuji at 10 seconds later after a 10-minute match is like, hey, Hogan, want a championship match? Worst manager ever. If I'm Yokozuna and this is real, what are you doing? I just wrestled.
That's
right. What are you doing?
We don't have to do this.
Yeah, we can fight him later, and we don't even have to fight him. He's not even one contender. So then Hogan, salt in the eye of Yokozuna, he cheats to win. And then Hogan wins the championship, 5-time champion. The image of him stroking his chin while looking at the title, looking at the camera, it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. If you are the crowd, it seems that the crowd loves it. But that documentary really gave me some insight here because they interviewed other fans who were not happy about this. Like they tried to kind of like shy away from fans who didn't want to say, I love Hulk Hogan. He's the greatest. They were saying, Bret Hart's my guy. Like, how do you feel? Because Bret Hart says it like he was lied to. He was told one thing, but he also says he's a good soldier and he does what he's told.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've talked about Bret Hart. I love Bret and saw him in Las Vegas, and he's, he's just so real, that guy. I mean, when you have these conversations, he is straight with you. And back then he says in the documentary, I thought it was my thought, what they told me, I was going to be champion for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah. I mean, honestly. And then to the night before, get called to the hotel room, and then they tell you, no, this is what's happening. And he said it was like a dagger to his heart, basically. I mean, to take that all in, here you've gone, this WrestleMania, my God, the stage. Let me have that. Let me have my day. And they take that away from you. But that was the thinking. I think that overall, and they'd seen the reaction to going into this WrestleMania, that there just wasn't that excitement for it. It takes a lot to and you mentioned Bret did carry the company, was great, but then it's for whatever reason they felt like he's just not going to take us to that place, that to get us back on track and really take it forward. But I think, as you mentioned, there were people that were very happy about what happened in the end. The Hulkamaniacs wanted to see him with the belt. But I also think that there were others who are going like, why this way? Because everybody's going to think of just like, so, the storyline just didn't work for me. That what are the chances? All of this has to have I always say that's kind of this element of reality that you kind of put yourself. It's like when you go to a movie and you say, okay, I'm all in this. And I hate it when they just take a liberty and expect you to just swallow it. And I think there was a lot of that feeling there, that I came in, I was all in, and then, okay, that's great. Hulk comes in to save him. And you could have had him come in there and I'd get the belt, maybe, chase him out of the ring or something, and then bring Bret in, or,
raise his hand,
and then start whatever. But the idea to think, okay, Mr. Fuji and Tuesday say, hey, do you want to come in here and challenge Yokozuna? Come on, it's like he wouldn't. Why would he do that? Like, your guy he just won the belt. Why would you put it again on the line again the same day? Like the same seconds later. Yeah. And really, is Bret going to be, with the eyes and like, no, you go, like after seeing Bret battle through everything when, tossed out of rings, slammed on cement, everything. And he got something. He's like, no, you go, you help, you go. And like, that isn't the Bret Hart I know. If he was blind, he would go back in there. Right. So I think that all the way around it was, you were happy about it, but I think that really you're going, that was just not the way it should have been done. But we understand it's business. You both get that. We talk about where they were, and then they did end up selling the place out. Hulk was certainly a big giant part of that. So you get the business, but then you were just kind of let down. Like, this is the way. This is how it worked. This is how it ended. Not great.
Right. And I think it's more of like it's like a victory, but like you're not winning the battle. You just won, a little. I guess you're not winning the war, you win the battle here. I get for years the rumor was Hogan's getting the title because we're going on a European tour, tickets out and doing well. Mm-hmm. So Hogan wins the belt. We're going to get him as the world champ. We're going to buy tickets to see him in Europe because, oh my God, Hulk Hogan's back. We're going to buy tickets to see him. Mm-hmm. He's not on the European card. Bruce Pritchard got yelled at by Conrad Thompson on their own podcast years ago about this, where Bruce said, this is one of the reasons that we were going to do this because we wanted our ticket sales to go up. And Conrad is like screaming at Bruce about this, saying, well, he wasn't on it. So why'd you do it? Like, he wasn't on it. He wasn't. Bruce is screaming about this. And guess who main events? Bret Hart. Bret Hart main events the European tour against Lex Luger. Yeah. So what are we doing here? If Bret Hart's not the guy, why is he in the main event of all your shows that you're depending on your world champion to be at, but he's not? Like, that to me is a lot of, hey, Bret, we don't want you to be the champion, but we want you to be the face, the worker, but we don't want you to be the guy that Vegas executives want to take pictures with because they don't really know who you are yet. They want to take pictures with Hulk Hogan because he's been the face for the past 9 years. Yeah. And I get it. I get all the aspects of the business of it all, but it really looks bad when you're trying to build a company around new people. And even Taker, I think he says it. Even Shawn Michaels says it in this documentary where they're bringing up like, well, we're the new guard. If you don't trust us to bring you to the next step, well, why are we going to put in an extra effort to make this company a new version of itself if you're not even going to say to us, hey, I know you did a great job, but we're going to bring back someone old. Yeah. It doesn't look good for those talents on that aspect, though.
No, and it doesn't. And as you just mentioned that, okay, so it has to happen overnight. They're thinking of, if we're going to put these guys there, it's got to happen right away. And these guys are saying, you got to give us that chance to let us build it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, and I think really what it came down to, Steve, it was a matter of saving one event in particular.
Of course.
Like if this would have fallen flat and there was a lot of concern. You'll get that feeling in the documentary when, because what also is a great side of this is that you're hearing from people like Basil DeVito. You're hearing from these guys that were executives with Caesar's Palace. When Basil talks about the guy said, so when is Hulk's going to be here, isn't he? And he's like, no, Hulk's not on this card. Like, what? How can? Well, no, we got to have the Hulkster. And then it went from, well, he's on the card, and then he's going to win the championship. And the guy, the Caesar's Palace exec, saying, I kind of was like a genius, I guess, that I knew that somehow Hulk was going to be part of this, and it's so you see all that, and even you see Basil laying out the sheets of the seating and everything, and how he sends an email to Vince after they realize they've got about 2,000 seats, and he says, and he explains the situation to Vince, and he goes, me just looking at this now takes me back and, like makes me sick to my stomach to think about. I remember what I was feeling when I sent this to him, because he's probably thinking the reaction, like, what the hell's going on? Like,
it's true.
So I get the feeling like the way that whole thing was, is that it really came down to saving the one event, because of what could have happened if that event had just been a disaster, right? If they didn't sell out, if they weren't able, after all the spectacle, and it would have been made fun of for years, as this circus. So I think that, bringing in Hulk Hogan to save it was really a sense to really save that whole event and the WWE at the time.
That's a good point.
And thinking from beyond that probably wasn't happening. I don't think they were thinking 12 months out. What do we do? 2 months from now. It was just, we have to save this. This has got to work, because it's going to, the damage may never recover from.
Especially, we just finished up with WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas, and you wouldn't have that event 2 nights as well, like 2 nights. Right. Over 120,000 fans for both nights. You have the WWE World, and back to that panel that you were hosting, it wasn't just Rick Steiner and Jimmy Hart there. You also had Braun Breaker, the son of Rick Steiner, and to me, that was a great moment to see them together. Because you bring it up, Braun Breaker wasn't alive when the WrestleMania 9 took place. So let's play a little clip from that, and we'll come back.
You weren't even born yet when WrestleMania 9 took place, but I know you've had a chance to see the documentary. What was it like, though, to sit there and watch and see your dad and your uncle?
I mean, it's just, I've seen a lot of their matches, as many as I can watch on YouTube or the internet, look back on, or some of the tapes, cassette tapes that we've had at the house for forever. But, it's cool to reminisce on those, these older matches and look back and watch them when they're in their prime and their thing. It's just like, how incredible that they both were. And, when he first came out here, I think I heard you right that the Steiner brothers were the greatest tag team of all time and not one of them. Is that right?
Yeah. Did I misspeak? Absolutely. The best. The #1 tag team.
Well, I know he was looking back because he stole all our moves. That's why.
Is that true, bro? But it must be. How inspired have you been by these two individuals? Obviously, where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the ground up. I mean, my dad is my hero in my life, and the person that I've looked up to the most. And I mean, I couldn't think of a better person to take, take after. You know what I mean? In this business, and look up to and look after, and I mean, some of the stuff that they did back in the day was just incredible.
Good old Braun Breaker, though, he did lose the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 41, but then the night after, aligned himself with Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. So I think he's doing just fine.
Yeah, I said I'm not worried about Braun Breaker. That kid's got a tremendous future ahead. No question.
What's it like being there, though, with Braun Breaker and then his father, Rick Steiner, next to you? There was a lovely moment when you guys were all hugging. You watched the entire panel on 10 Count Media's YouTube channel. It's there for your watching pleasure. But how did it feel, though, you're seeing them next to each other? Because I'm looking at them and I'm staring at them like, damn, these guys look, father and son, they look exactly alike.
Yeah. Well, you see how, we've seen Braun in the ring now with the shirt off and, and you see the physical specimen that he is. Well, that's those are the genes of the Steiner brothers, because those two guys, if you remember, were just massive, and they were just notorious. They were dangerous in the ring, and really one of the most exciting tag teams ever to watch. As you saw there, Braun thinks that they are the best, and corrected me.
I would be like, sure, sir, whatever you want.
Yeah, but what I really love about it, though, Steve, is it's generational. And when I came into the business, there was a lot more of that involvement. We still see it today, but back then, you had the Hart family, the Hennigs, you had all of these, people that had come up to the business and their sons carrying it on. And it is just, it's so awesome to see that goes on with Braun. And it's clear, you can see, he wasn't born yet when they were really in their prime there, and they were at WrestleMania IX. But you can see the influence on Braun and the way he performs in the ring. He's just unbelievable. But I see him, and it takes me back to watching his dad and his uncle. And it's so funny because, Rick, of course, is kidding, or whatever, half kidding, but he says he stole all our moves. Well, why not? I would steal those things too. I mean, they were like the greatest human destroyers in that ring. And you really felt, and you saw some of it on the stage, and they actually they hugged before we had the group hug, and you can just see the genuine connection between those two, and just how much Braun thinks of his father, and it was just really cool to have them both on the stage. But I'm sure it's great for him to have his dad, who comes to a lot of these shows, and he's and to have him as kind of an advisor, I'm sure. But I don't think his dad could not be prouder. And to see for him the success that he's now having really has to make him feel good. And it was just a blast to be on the stage and with those two. And it's just awesome to see where he has gone, where the success he has found so far. And as we know, with what's happening now with the WWE, they have big plans for Braun Breaker.
100%. I know it's funny when you see Rick Steiner on the panel there, and I'm sitting front row watching this at the World. That's who was recording all this. And I watched it, and you could see his eyes starting to tear up, talking about his three boys. Yes. And when he came home, he wasn't sleeping on the couch like you hear other stories, or doing drugs. Like, he was making sure that he was at all their games and involved with his boys, because that's what he cared about. And that was nice to see as well, because WrestleMania IX can be remembered for a lot of things: black eyes, Hogan's finishes. But the match of the night, if you have one match to watch from this event, it's Steiner Brothers versus the Head Shrinkers. It's, and it's funny to think that when you look at a card and you just read names off without even knowing anything about it, you think like, oh, that's gonna be the match of the night. And then you're like, wow, it is the match of the night. There are random moments in this card that are fun. Two Doinks is fun. Luna Vachon and Sherry being involved in the first matchup of the evening. There's moments, but the match is Steiner Brothers versus the Head Shrinkers. And personally for you, Sean Mooney, we've seen you pop up randomly on WWE TV over the years. You've been involved with other documentaries. You were part of the Raw Anniversary. What did it feel like for you to see a phone call come into your cell phone, and it's from Stanford, and they're like, hey, Sean, we want you, and we want you to host this panel about WrestleMania IX. Personally, you, what was that like?
Well, I think in the words of Steve Austin, the first thing I said was, hell yeah. I was really excited about it, because it was the documentary I knew was great. I'd heard a lot about it. And the fact that, they were going to let me come out there and host this panel with these guys. And Jimmy Hart was also, who I know very well, was a part of it. And there's a little anxiety involved in that when you're going to do something, but I knew with Jimmy up there that I was going to be just fine, because you can riff with that guy all day long. And originally Lex was going to also be on the stage to talk about the documentary, but if people are familiar with how these events work, they had the Hall of Fame ceremony the night before. It follows SmackDown, and then there was a large pause between the shows because they were at two different venues that they were doing this. So it got started very late. And we also know, Lex has some very serious physical disabilities. It's difficult for him to, get around, and that I'm sure that turnaround would have been just a matter of a few hours. So I was really disappointed that I didn't get to be on the stage with Lex. I'd seen him in England a little bit back, but the idea that I could be on the stage and interviewing him about this event, I was really excited about. But it was still a great honor. And anytime that they bring me back, because not only just doing the panel was fantastic. I love, getting back up there. If you see, they got me, there was that light blue blazer.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the mock WWF. They can't show that logo anymore, but it is the style and the color. And, Vince loved all those colors, the blazers. We had about 5 of them, and, cranberry and gold and gray. And I always loved I didn't like wearing the different color. If you look back, I always wore the dark blue blazer. I thought that was but the powder blue, which Vince loved, and so did Alfred. And so I got to wear the powder blue blazer, and it was great that, a lot of those fans at WWE World remember those days. And there was a good pop when I went out there. That was cool. And then I got a chance to talk to some of them when it was over. So yeah, it was absolutely an awesome event. Doing that panel. I hope that there's more of that stuff down the road. I absolutely loved it. But I also, WrestleCon was fantastic. I did a couple of days of signings there, and then was able to go backstage at WrestleMania. I had to leave Saturday night. That's the way it all worked out. But I went over there earlier in the day. I was at WWE World, and then I went over there, so I got to see some of the rehearsals that were going on.
Oh, nice.
And Steve, it's really cool, and it makes my heart feel good when some of these guys that are stars today, huge, talking to them and them saying, I loved watching you when I was a kid. People like Drew McIntyre, who I met for the first time, it was just awesome seeing him. I've talked about Nick Aldis. It's a good friend of mine. I got to see him. Got to see Bruce. So it was just awesome being backstage and seeing all these guys and this next generation of that will be certainly WWE legends, that they still honor everything that happened before. And being at WrestleCon and seeing people like Honky Tonk Man and Axe and Smash of Demolition, who I think it's awesome now that they're kind of back in the fold. They've gotten they've received Legends contracts. I saw them and talked to them about that, and they're very excited about it. I saw Tito Santana. I saw Sarge. So I got to see a lot of the guys from the old guard, and I've got some interviews that I did with them, some quick conversations that I'm going to put up on a Prime Time with Sean Mooney. And so it was a whirlwind, and every moment of it was fantastic. And just loved doing that panel. I'm in my element there. I love it. And so I hope you see more of me doing that stuff. It'd be great.
It was awesome to see you doing that panel, and awesome to see you in that documentary as well. So, WrestleMania IX will remember for a lot of things, but for me, I'll remember the day that I saw Sean Mooney host that panel, and it took me back, and it felt good. It was a long week of WrestleMania activities, but it was a fun week of WrestleMania activities, and we'll have to see what happens next. Will they come back to Vegas someday? I'm not sure, but the WrestleMania IX panel was great. The documentary was great. WrestleMania 41 was a lot of fun too. So all in all, it's always a good time talking about WrestleMania with you, especially WrestleMania 9, because we talked about 5, talked about 6, 7, 8, and now we've finished off the WrestleMania round trip here with Sean Mooney here on 10 Count Media, talking about the past, the present, and the future. And of course, we do have more episodes coming out, so we will be continuously dropping them Monday mornings, 7 a.m. Eastern time for you. And of course, we are uploading Prime Time Mooney. That's right, Prime Time with Sean Mooney. That page, that YouTube channel is back up and running. Mountie interviews, Demolition interviews, Matt Cardona interviews. They're all coming your way. They're fresh, they're beautiful, and they'll be there for you. Plus, we'll be uploading old clips from your interviews with Tugboat, Todd Pettengill, Gene Okerlund, the classics. So we have a lot coming up on both channels, and we're just building an empire brick by brick. And soon the pyramid will be built with our faces on the front. But honestly, though, it's always a pleasure talking to you, Sean Mooney, about anything and everything. And I'm Steve Fall. He's Sean Mooney. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.